Hey Jim, it's Ken. Today is January the 11th, 2020. And as we know, we've had several conversations about the roof leaks in the water. And the purpose in this video is to document and prove to you that the roof is in fact severely leaking and damaging our business and the materials that we have in the business. So I'm here in the main entrance where the guests come in, where most everybody enters the building right there. As you'll see, there's water all along the wall here, coming down the wall. If you look up, you'll see that the water's running down the drywall. It's actively running now. You'll see the mold that we have cleaned several times and painted over. And of course, more water. The drywall is crumbling. And it's so brittle that it comes off like in chunks. This piece up here actually fell. A 4x8 sheet of ply or drywall fell during the October season when we were open. Our team cleaned that up. Here's another puddle. But that's really just the start of the problem. If you look down the hallway, you'll see that this hallway is about 8 feet wide. And that water is about 30 foot long. In the video, it's probably hard to tell the depth of the water, but as you'll see, standing here with the reflection of the light, the roofing is actually leaking currently. Like it's dripping the water right now, as you'll see the little drips in the video. But this water is deep enough to splash. That's a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch of water deep. 8 feet wide, 30 feet long. As you walk into our scenes are soaking wet. The rooms are wet. The electrical is wet. That's water on top of the electrical. You go into the next scene. It is wet. All the way through, wet. The walls are wicking the water. The water is coming up the walls. That's wet, 14 inches to 16 inches tall. If we come through, it's not raining outside right now. I'll step out this door here and show you. It is not actively raining right now. And the roof is dripping water. If you walk through this area, the center of our space is completely soaking wet. Deep enough to splash. Wet, wet, wet. All of that is wet. This space is about 24 feet wide and probably 40 foot long, completely wet. The props we use for our Christmas show, ruined. The couch, soaking wet. Our storage room in here, soaking wet. Electrical supplies, lighting, machines, soaking wet. The floor, soaking wet. The water is dripping on my head now. In here is where the main electrical is. As you can see, there's that's probably an inch deep there. The hallway, soaking wet. All the way to the electrical panel, wet. Into the haunted house, soaking wet. Hard to see down there, puddles. If you come into the next scene, wet. The whole floor. If you look, the mold that's growing, the wallpaper coming off, wet. Wallpaper's wrinkled. This wall's ruined. That'll have to be replaced. That can't even be saved. You look along this wall, you'll see where the wall is wicking the water up. The OSB is sucking the water up off the floor. It's probably hard to tell in the picture or in the video, but that's about 12 inches tall right there. You come down this hallway, more water. You come into here. This room is built with fire retardant material over the wall. Stuff is very expensive. Wet. It's wicked the water all the way up. That's about 10 inches tall there. Water. That mannequin is standing in a puddle of water. Water. Wet. The water stains. You come into this room. More water. Water. The wall's wicking the water up. We've got a leak from above. It's literally coming all the way down the wall. Wet. As we come into the next scene, wet, wet. Couple dry spots, more water. Comes all the way into here, wet, wet. We come back out into this hallway, and as you look down the hallway, it's just water. I mean, the dark spots are all water, and it's not one major leak. The roof is leaking everywhere. It's physically dripping back here. I'm in the very middle of the building. More water. You'll see where the walls are sucking up the water over here as well. We're into another scene. There's more water. I mean, we've covered a good 50% of the space that's wet. More water. This water here is heavy enough that it's run underneath the wall, so I'm certain that it's wet on the other side. It's dripping right here. You can see it. It'll drip again here in just a moment. Hopefully you can see it on the camera or hear it. It's dripping all around me. This is brand new material. We've never even gotten to use. We purchased too much. We decided to store it here. It was screwed to this wall. It's wicked the water 18 inches tall. This is, it's not cardboard. This is almost like a paneling type material. Stuff is like $26 a sheet. That stuff is ruined. You'll have to throw that away. I mean, you might be able to cut it off and use 2/3 of it, I guess. Water. Wet. This is a real concern in here. This is our tool room storage. The floor is wet, and so is all of our tools. The water's running down that box. That box is ruined. I mean, that's completely, you can see the color change in the cardboard on how wet it is. There's 3/4 of an inch of standing water in that tote. All this electrical connector stuff has got water all over it. You can see from the video that the shelf is wet right there. Literally the water running down off of that. Our cutoff saw has water standing on it where it's been rained on. A bucket full of water. That bucket wasn't here to catch water, but it did. Like, the bucket's completely full. This whole workbench, completely sopping, soaking wet. You come back to this hallway, and there's more water. This is the deepest spot of water right here. This water right here is an inch, a solid inch, possibly 1.5 inches deep. I mean, that seems crazy. So that's what we're working with. That's a portion of the headache and the roof leak. I didn't even go into the first haunted house. There's about 15 different little spots in there that are leaking. So I know you want to raise the rent. I think you said the roof's not leaking, or you wanted to come see it for yourself, but coincidentally enough, it's not usually raining when you're here. I would encourage you to come down here. I don't know, anytime you want really, but during a storm or shortly after would be ideal to see the mess. So far, it's cost us several $1,000s in replacing plywood and labor and everything else that comes along with the mess this size. Look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.